Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing: the last of the human freedoms, the ability to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. These words, spoken by Viktor Frankl, echo through history as one of the most profound insights into human nature ever recorded. But what did this Austrian psychiatrist truly mean when he spoke of our ultimate freedom? Today, we journey into the extraordinary story of a man who found meaning in the darkest places imaginable and changed how we understand the human spirit forever. Viktor Frankl was not just another psychiatrist or philosopher sitting comfortably in an ivory tower. He was a survivor of the Holocaust, a man who endured 4 Nazi concentration camps, including Auschwitz, Kaufering, and Turkheim. From this unimaginable suffering emerged one of the most influential psychological theories of the 20th century: logotherapy. Unlike Freud, who believed humans were primarily driven by pleasure, or Adler, who emphasized the will to power, Frankl proposed something revolutionary. He argued that our deepest motivation is neither pleasure nor power, but meaning. The search for significance in our existence drives us more powerfully than any other force. Imagine being stripped of everything you once considered essential to your identity: your family, your possessions, your freedom, even your name replaced by a number. This was Frankl's reality when he was deported to the concentration camps in 1942. At 37 years old, this promising psychiatrist found himself facing the ultimate test of his own theories about human nature and resilience. What he discovered in those dark barracks and forced labor details would reshape psychology forever. He observed something remarkable among his fellow prisoners. Those who survived the longest were not necessarily the strongest physically or the most privileged before their imprisonment. They were the ones who maintained a sense of purpose, a reason to live beyond their immediate circumstances. The genesis of man's search for meaning began in the most unlikely of places. Hidden in the lining of Frankl's coat was a manuscript, his life's work on logotherapy, which he had managed to conceal when first arrested. When this precious document was discovered and destroyed by the guards, Frankl made a decision that would change millions of lives. He would reconstruct his theory, not from the comfort of his study, but from the laboratory of human suffering itself. Every day became both a test and a confirmation of his beliefs about the human capacity to find meaning, even in meaninglessness. Frankl noticed patterns among the prisoners that challenged conventional wisdom about survival. Physical strength mattered, yes, but psychological resilience mattered more. He watched strong men crumble while frail individuals endured. The difference lay in their relationship to meaning. Those who could connect their suffering to something larger than themselves, who maintained hope for reunion with loved ones, who felt they had important work to complete, or who simply refused to let their captors destroy their inner dignity, these were the ones who survived. This observation would become the cornerstone of logotherapy. The concept of inner freedom became central to Frankl's understanding. Even when external circumstances were completely beyond their control, prisoners still possessed one crucial choice: their attitude toward their situation. This was not mere positive thinking or denial of reality. It was something far more profound. It was the recognition that between stimulus and response lies a space, and in that space lies our freedom to choose our response. This choice, Frankl realized, was the source of human dignity and the foundation of psychological health. No matter how dire the circumstances, this fundamental freedom could never be completely taken away. Love played a crucial role in Frankl's survival and his theory. Separated from his wife Tilly, he would spend hours visualizing conversations with her, finding strength in the connection they shared. He discovered that love transcends physical presence, that the spiritual bond between two people can provide meaning even in separation. This wasn't romantic idealization, but a profound recognition of how love connects us to something beyond ourselves. When we love deeply, we tap into a source of meaning that external circumstances cannot touch. The beloved becomes a reason to endure, a purpose that gives suffering itself significance. The daily reality of camp life tested every aspect of human resilience. Frankl watched fellow prisoners face impossible choices, witnessed acts of both cruelty and compassion, and struggled with his own moments of despair. Yet through it all, he maintained his scientific curiosity, his observer's eye that would later allow him to articulate these experiences for the world. He noticed how quickly humans could adapt to unimaginable conditions, how hierarchy emerged even in the most egalitarian suffering, and how small acts of kindness could illuminate the darkest moments. These observations would later inform his understanding of human nature and therapeutic practice. The liberation of the camps brought its own challenges. Frankl discovered that freedom, after prolonged captivity, was not immediately joyful, but often disorienting. Many survivors experienced what he called moral deformity, a bending of ethical standards that had been necessary for survival but was difficult to straighten afterward. Others struggled with the meaninglessness of their new freedom, having become so adapted to external control that self-direction felt overwhelming. These insights would later help him understand how modern people, despite unprecedented freedom and prosperity, could still suffer from what he termed existential vacuum. After the war, Frankl learned that most of his family, including his beloved wife, had perished in the camps. This devastating loss could have destroyed him, but instead it deepened his commitment to his life's work. He remarried, rebuilt his career, and began articulating the insights gained through suffering. The manuscript he reconstructed became the foundation for logotherapy, the third Viennese School of psychotherapy. Where Freud focused on the unconscious and Adler on individual psychology, Frankl emphasized the spiritual dimension of human existence, not in a religious sense necessarily, but in terms of our capacity to transcend ourselves and find meaning. Logotherapy introduced several revolutionary concepts to psychology. The will to meaning replaced the will to pleasure or power as the primary human drive. Frankl argued that when this fundamental need for meaning is frustrated, people experience existential frustration, which can manifest as depression, anxiety, or aggression. Unlike other therapeutic approaches that focused primarily on the past, logotherapy was future-oriented, helping people discover their unique purpose and move toward it. This shift from dwelling on trauma to creating meaning from it represented a fundamental change in therapeutic thinking. The technique of paradoxical intention became one of logotherapy's most practical applications. Instead of fighting anxiety or unwanted behaviors directly, patients were encouraged to wish for or exaggerate them. This counterintuitive approach often broke the cycle of anticipatory anxiety and allowed natural healing to occur. Dereflection, another key technique, involved redirecting attention away from oneself and towards something meaningful in the world. These methods reflected Frankl's core belief that humans are healthiest when focused on something beyond themselves, rather than on their own psychological states. When Man's Search for Meaning was first published in 1946 in German, few could have predicted its eventual impact. The book was initially titled, "Saying Yes to Life in Spite of Everything," a phrase that captured its essential message. The English translation appeared in 1959 and gradually gained recognition. What started as one man's attempt to make sense of unspeakable suffering became a universal guide to finding purpose in any circumstance. The book's power lay not just in its psychological insights, but in its profound humanity and hope. The existential vacuum that Frankl identified became increasingly relevant as society evolved. In post-war prosperity, many people found themselves materially comfortable but spiritually empty. Traditional sources of meaning like religion and social convention were weakening, but nothing had replaced them. Frankl observed that this meaninglessness manifested in boredom, depression, and what he called the Sunday neurosis, the anxiety that emerged when people faced unstructured time and had to confront the question of what their lives were really about. His work provided a framework for understanding and addressing this modern malaise. Frankl's insights proved remarkably prescient about contemporary mental health challenges. Long before our current discussions about purpose-driven living and positive psychology, he argued that meaning, not happiness, should be our primary goal. He believed that happiness couldn't be pursued directly, but emerged as a byproduct of meaningful living. This perspective offers a profound alternative to our culture's obsession with immediate gratification and constant positivity. It suggests that even difficult experiences can be worthwhile if they contribute to something significant. The book's influence extended far beyond psychology into business, education, and personal development. Leaders began recognizing that employees needed more than financial compensation. They needed to understand how their work contributed to something meaningful. Educators realized that students learned better when they saw relevance in their studies. Individuals facing career transitions, relationship challenges, or health crises found in Frankl's work a framework for transforming suffering into growth. The book became a bridge between academic psychology and practical wisdom. Different cultures embraced Frankl's message in various ways, but its universality remained constant. Whether in collectivist societies that emphasized group meaning or individualist cultures focused on personal purpose, the core insight resonated. Humans need reasons to live that transcend immediate comfort or success. This cross-cultural appeal helped establish Man's Search for Meaning as one of the most influential books of the 20th century, translated into dozens of languages and selling millions of copies worldwide. The concept of tragic optimism became one of Frankl's most sophisticated contributions to human understanding. Unlike naive optimism that ignores reality or pessimism that surrenders to it, tragic optimism acknowledges life's inevitable suffering while maintaining hope for meaning. This mature perspective doesn't promise that everything will work out perfectly, but insists that everything can be meaningful if we choose to make it so. It's an approach that honors both human vulnerability and human strength, both our capacity to suffer and our ability to transform that suffering into something valuable. Modern neuroscience has provided interesting support for some of Frankl's insights. Research on resilience shows that people who can find meaning in adversity often recover more quickly from trauma. Studies of happiness reveal that people oriented toward purpose and meaning report higher life satisfaction than those focused on pleasure-seeking. The placebo effect demonstrates the power of belief and expectation in healing, echoing Frankl's emphasis on attitude and hope. While we must be cautious about retrofitting scientific findings to earlier theories, these discoveries suggest Frankl was identifying real psychological and neurological phenomena. Contemporary applications of logotherapy continue to evolve and expand. Therapists use meaning-centered approaches with cancer patients, helping them find purpose despite terminal diagnoses. Grief counselors help bereaved individuals transform their loss into memorial actions or advocacy. Addiction specialists recognize that recovery often requires not just removing substances, but replacing them with meaningful activities and relationships. Corporate consultants help organizations articulate purpose that motivates employees beyond mere profit. These diverse applications demonstrate the breadth and durability of Frankl's insights. The relevance of existential concerns has perhaps never been greater than today. In an age of unprecedented technological change, social media comparison, and global uncertainty, many people struggle with questions of purpose and identity. The traditional life script of education, career, family, and retirement has become less predictable and meaningful for many. Environmental concerns, political divisions, and economic inequality can create feelings of powerlessness and despair. Yet Frankl's work suggests that even these contemporary challenges can become sources of meaning if we choose to engage with them purposefully. Young people particularly struggle with existential questions in today's world. Faced with climate change, economic uncertainty, and social fragmentation, many report feeling hopeless about the future. Frankl's emphasis on personal responsibility and choice offers a counter-narrative to victimhood and helplessness. His insight that we can find meaning in any situation, even ones we cannot change, provides a foundation for resilience and engagement. This doesn't minimize real challenges but empowers individuals to respond creatively and purposefully to whatever circumstances they face. The digital age presents unique challenges to meaning-making. Social media can create artificial connections that lack depth, while endless entertainment options can distract from deeper questions about purpose. Yet technology also offers unprecedented opportunities for meaningful connection and impact. Frankl's framework helps us navigate these choices consciously, asking not just what is possible or pleasant, but what is meaningful. His work reminds us that freedom without purpose becomes mere license, and that true fulfillment comes from using our capabilities in service of something beyond ourselves. Healthcare professionals increasingly recognize the importance of meaning in healing and wellness. Medical schools now teach courses on the spiritual dimensions of illness, acknowledging that treating symptoms without addressing existential concerns often falls short of true healing. Palliative care emphasizes helping patients find meaning in their remaining time rather than merely managing pain. Mental health professionals integrate meaning-centered approaches with traditional therapeutic techniques, recognizing that psychological symptoms often reflect spiritual hunger rather than mere biological dysfunction. The workplace has become a crucial arena for meaning-making in modern life, since many people spend more time at work than with family or in leisure activities. Organizations that help employees connect their daily tasks to larger purposes often see improved engagement, creativity, and retention. This doesn't require dramatic career changes, but rather a shift in perspective about how any work can contribute to human flourishing. Frankl's insights suggest that meaning is not found in what we do, but in how and why we do it. Relationships remain perhaps the most important source of meaning for most people, and Frankl's work illuminates how love and connection contribute to purpose. His experience of maintaining emotional connection with his wife despite physical separation demonstrates that relationships can transcend circumstances. His observation that we discover ourselves through our connections with others points to the inherently social nature of meaning. Whether through family bonds, friendships, mentoring relationships, or community involvement, our connections with others provide both context and motivation for meaningful living. The question of suffering remains central to understanding Frankl's contribution. He never suggested that suffering was good in itself or that we should seek it out. Rather, he argued that since suffering is inevitable in human life, we might as well find ways to make it meaningful. This perspective transforms our relationship to difficulty from pure victimhood to potential growth. It doesn't minimize pain, but refuses to let pain be the final word about human experience. This mature approach to suffering offers an alternative to both denial and despair. Viktor Frankl's legacy continues to unfold decades after his death in 1997. New generations of readers discover man's search for meaning and find in it guidance for contemporary challenges. Researchers continue to explore and validate his insights about meaning and resilience. Practitioners adapt his techniques to new populations and problems. Most importantly, individuals around the world continue to find in his work the inspiration and tools to transform their own suffering into service, their own questions into quest, their own search into discovery. The enduring power of Frankl's message lies in its fundamental optimism about human nature combined with its realistic acknowledgement of human suffering. He saw in each person the capacity for transcendence, the ability to rise above circumstances and create meaning from the raw material of experience. This vision neither promises easy answers nor guarantees happy endings, but it offers something perhaps more valuable: the assurance that every life has the potential for significance, that every person possesses the freedom to choose their attitude, and that meaning is always possible for those willing to search for it. As we face our own challenges, whether personal struggles or global crises, Frankl's insights remain remarkably relevant. His work reminds us that we are not merely products of our circumstances, but active creators of our responses to those circumstances. It suggests that the question is not what life demands of us, but what we can offer to life. It insists that even in our darkest moments, we retain the ultimate human freedom, the ability to choose who we become in the face of whatever we must face. The story of Viktor Frankl and man's search for meaning ultimately testifies to the resilience and creativity of the human spirit. From the depths of humanity's darkest chapter emerged insights that continue to illuminate the path toward meaningful living. This transformation of suffering into wisdom, of personal tragedy into universal hope, exemplifies the very process Frankl described: the human capacity to transcend circumstances and create meaning from the most unlikely materials. If this exploration of Viktor Frankl's extraordinary legacy has resonated with you, I invite you to subscribe to our channel for more content that bridges profound wisdom with practical living. Please like this video and share it with others who might benefit from these timeless insights about finding meaning in any circumstance. Because, as Frankl himself reminded us, those who have a why to live for can bear with almost any how.